Welcome to Black and Gold Digital Edition, a behind-the-scenes look at your Pittsburgh Steelers.
Hi everyone, I'm Jay Puskar alongside Kent Urbanski, our videographer, Mike Fenner, our reporter, and of course everybody knows this guy, Mike Gallagher.
Thanks.
Guys, welcome to the round table for week number 2. Let's go back to last week's performance, the opener for both teams, the Patriots and the Steelers. What a lackluster performance by Pittsburgh. They came out flat. New England took advantage, and they never looked back. Kent, your thoughts?
It was a long way to drive for 3 points.
It was. To and from.
Right. One thing I noticed right off the bat when I was on the field and right as the pregame was going on, that Brady comes running out on the field. He's all jacked up, pumped up, waving, getting the fans into it and everything. And the Steelers just didn't seem to have any energy to them whatsoever. Ben just running across the field, not firing anybody up on his team. I noticed that right from the bat. Energy level was real low. It was almost like they went into the game knowing that this was going to be a tough challenge for them, that they weren't going to pull that victory off.
And even with the pregame, there was never that spark in the first half alone because it carried all the way into the locker room. And Mike, that was kind of telling to see the black and gold going into the locker room just with no energy after the first half.
It did, and they had their unveiling of the banner ceremony and whatnot, and you and I talked about this. I wasn't overly impressed with their presentation.
No, it's kind of ho-hum by New England standards where it's like,
well,
hey, here's our six.
When you win 6 of them, you kind of, what do you do?
You got to do this
what
again?
Right, yeah.
Right.
The poor guy that has to hang the sign.
Right, yeah.
I'm sure he gets a ring, right?
But being there, I never from the get-go could understand what the Steelers' game plan was. It just seemed like, and you guys talked about it in the broadcast show, that never could get the running game going. Never, almost seemed like Ben was just back there just trying to figure out somebody who could get open, and there just never was.
And guys, it's cliche. It's always, hey, the game's passed, it's over and done with, it's on to the next week. And Mike, you were down there for practice, getting ready for the Seattle Seahawks and the Steelers home opener. What kind of vibe were you getting at practice? And was it true that, you know what, they have turned the page?
I think it's a loose vibe, and I think they're saying, hey, it's one game, it's one loss, and it doesn't count for 4 or 5. I really felt like they've already moved on. Like, really, that they were not okay with the way they played week 1, but they're thinking, okay, we have a great opportunity in front of us. We got the home opener. It's going to be exciting. Go put out a good offensive performance. I think these guys are loose, and they're saying, hey, it's week 1. We got a whole season in front of us. We've got a lot of talent in this locker room. That's the vibe I got, is that they're ready to move on from this. They have, and, hey, if we see them again, we'll get our shot. But for now, just turn the page.
And guys, now that the season is well underway, this is where player movement starts to take place too, whether it's injury related or trade related. And in this case, the Steelers, not by their standards, but Jacksonville was in need of a quarterback. Pittsburgh stepped up. They said, hey, we're going to trade Josh Dobbs, get a draft pick out of it. Your thoughts on now putting trust in Mason Rudolph, not only to be the backup quarterback, but possibly the quarterback of the future for this franchise?
Right, yeah, I liked what I saw from Mason Rudolph this year. He definitely stepped up. I think he earned that number 2 spot, and I think he's the quarterback of the future for the Steelers. You can see that he's got mobility. He's got an arm. He's got a good rapport with James Washington. Ben, to me, looked a little slow and older in that Patriot game. And I was almost thinking in my head, and I'm sure a lot of people wonder what Mason Rudolph would do to change that. Not that I want to pull a Hall of Fame quarterback out after week 1, but that's what my thoughts are on Mason Rudolph.
I think,
Mike,
well, you and I talked about this too, and that's the big question. In the minds of the Pittsburgh Steelers organization, is Mason Rudolph the heir apparent? Is that where they're thinking? Is that the thinking behind making him the number 2 guy? And it's going to be interesting to see. He did some amazing things at Oklahoma State, and to see him do those types of things at the professional level would be something special. He's a good guy. He's fits that Pittsburgh mold. But Josh Dobbs, tough to see him go. I mean, a lot of people liked him. We know the stories of he's a rocket scientist. Literally, he's a rocket scientist. Yeah. We had the opportunity in one of our Black and Gold Today markets where the Steelers brought one of their charity basketball teams, and Josh Dobbs was a member of that. So we had a chance to get to interact with him a little bit, and really just a class guy. But that's the nature of the beast in the National Football League. You move on, and we can only wish Dobbs the very best, and hopefully he turns into something special.
Well, here's the thing: we got a 5th round draft pick for Dobbs, a 4th-round draft pick himself. We get a 3 and a 5 for Antonio, future Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? So you're looking at one player there, difference between a guy who started every game for the Steelers versus a guy who never actually started one snap for the Steelers in a regular season game. So to get a 5th-round draft pick for him, I think that's pretty good.
And guys, we've been around this team since going back to training camp, through preseason, and now through the first week of the regular season. And Mike, you've been able to see just the kind of vibe of Mason Rudolph as well. And do you get the sense that he's starting to gain more confidence and getting that trust from the organization?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, this week, Ben Roethlisberger not going through practice, had a Veterans Day off. And so that's a valuable time for Rudolph to gain those reps, to get that familiarity, that experience with the first-team offense. And this is not going to be a team where they're in panic mode if Roethlisberger goes down or has to come out, has a helmet come off. I think this is a guy that has a lot of poise and gained a lot of experience from last year. How about Devlin Hodges, though, coming back to this
How
team?
about that?
Yeah. Literally turned his truck around to come back to Pittsburgh. He's on his way to the Jets, I think, wasn't he?
That's
Yeah,
exactly what I was
with the
just about to
Jets
say.
and turned his truck around and came back to be on the practice
And he seemed to be a fan favorite, too, throughout the course of preseason.
Right. Everybody looks at guys like that who are a little undersized and a little scrappy little guys. Give those guys a shot, So, yeah, that's exciting. We'll
Guys,
see what happens.
your thoughts on the upcoming game now with Seattle? This is a team that's got to come across the country to play in Heinz Field. We heard Tim Benz during our broadcast, too, that, when the NFC West especially comes into Heinz Field, they play terrible.
Yeah, was it
But this is
0-6 or something like that?
This is a Pete Carroll team that has been there, done that. They've
Yeah.
won a Super Bowl. They've been to another. They play good defense. That always travels well. What do you guys take away with the preview of coming up with the home opener?
Well, do we look at this as a must-win already? Because if you look
Yeah.
at statistics,
Well, even the schedule, too.
0-2
The schedule
teams
just
don't
doesn't
go to
really
the
fit.
right, but any team that's started 0-2, if you look at the pattern, maybe 3 teams out of the 15 teams that have started 0-2 have actually even made the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's something to look at. You don't want to go 0-2 right off the bat. Now, granted, that doesn't mean the Steelers wouldn't make the playoffs, but the margin of error down the road becomes smaller.
And speaking of playoffs, we all talked about week 1 and everything. Bottom line is, even though the Steelers lost, better yet, the Browns lost too.
How about
You know what? It was one of those
Right.
things
How
where even in the
about that?
division.
I think they got caught up in their own hype and put too much pressure on themselves right from the get-go, and that's,
And I know who
that's
was.
what happened.
I know
Hey,
who
here's
was
the
happy.
question for
This
all of
gentleman
you.
right here to my left. He was thrilled to see that
Is there
outcome.
more
Remember the
pressure on the
Titans.
Browns to turn it around in 1 week or the Steelers?
I'd have to say
I-
Pittsburgh, because if they go 0-2, and then they got to go
Right.
out west to face. We don't
Yeah,
know what
I
kind of
think-
San
yeah.
Francisco team is out there just
Right.
yet, but that's another trap game.
And I think the pressure's on them because after what Tomlin described as laying an egg, you better come back with something to put on tape after that.
And are
performance
the
in this
Ravens the real deal, or are the Dolphins that bad?
That's
I
to be
would have to
told.
lean toward the latter more than
Right,
anything.
right. Yeah, let's see what happens when they face a team that has a little bit better of a defense.
Mike, from a fan base for those going to Heinz Field, I mean, is it a matter of we're on a short leash now? I mean, could you possibly see if things don't pan out the way they're expecting that there's going to be some disgruntled fans and some disappointment after 2 weeks of play?
There could be, but I'm not feeling any of that pressure that you guys are talking about. Head coach Mike Tomlin is 10-2 in home openers with the Steelers. This Pittsburgh team's going up against a Seattle team that gave up 400 yards passing last week. Yeah, they beat the Bengals, but Cincinnati's supposed to be one of the worst teams in the
Right.
league. Seattle squeaked out a win. I also look at last year. I know the AFC North, AFC South are not the same divisions, but Houston started out 0-3. They won the division.
That's
and this
true.
is a Pittsburgh
Right.
division
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
AFC
count
North.
that as one of the teams
You're
I
right.
was
This is an
talking
AFC
about.
North where I feel like 10 wins, maybe even 9 wins could take care of it. So
Right.
I'm not really looking at the doomsday theories of if Pittsburgh loses this game. I don't think there's as much pressure with this home opener as maybe some think. That's just my personal opinion. I think that they're in pretty good shape right now. If they just come out, play the way they're capable of, I think they'll be fine.
And there's
Even
a lot
if
to
they
be-
aren't, there's still a ton of season.
There's a lot to be said, too, about the starts, because look at Indianapolis.
Right.
Indianapolis got off to a horrendous start, and all of a sudden they found themselves
Right.
Same thing.
getting themselves into a
Right.
playoff spot. So I think the times have changed with the salary cap and the player movement and just, hey, if we get hurt early, we get healthy late, you can make that run. So, those statistics like you mentioned,
Right.
that were pretty critical 20, 30
Right.
years ago, maybe not the case now,
Yeah,
but it's still important to get going early and feel
Right.
good about yourselves where you don't have to really lean on those wins down the
Yeah,
stretch.
I just don't, you go 0-2, you head out to the West Coast, things that, how they traditionally, the Steelers do not fare well on the West
they're not
Coast.
playing
Look at
Oakland.
last year.
Right. Right. So,
Had to say it.
hey, this game, I want to see Ben have build a rapport with these wide receivers. I want to see some playmaking catches out of these guys that we just didn't see out there in New England. James Washington's deep ball was probably the only one that comes to my mind that was a decent, I don't know, power play you can say for the Steelers. They need to develop something in this game, and like what I talked about in the last segment of Black and Gold Digital, that I was worried, you know, is Ben going to get how's he going to look without having AB, you know?
And just even the work of the preseason in itself.
Right. And how much did Ben really play in the preseason to build that rapport? You know what I mean? So was that the Steelers' preseason? Now do they come out firing on all
How about
cylinders?
the tight end position, though? Vance McDonald didn't get a target until about 5 or 6 minutes to go in the game.
Yeah, and he dropped that
We
ball
talked in the preseason about how the tight end position was going to be elevated.
Right,
It's going to be
that's
a big part of the passing
I
game.
thought that would be where the Steelers would be, you know, exposing the Patriots over the middle with Vance and nothing.
Yeah.
You know, and James couldn't get going. It seemed like back in that game that the Patriots were just, you know, all over them. You couldn't get, what was it, 10 carries, 21 yards or something like that?
Yeah.
That's
Not a very
not a
good
traditional
average. Not a
James
good ratio.
Conner. Right.
Well, you're
So-
playing from behind the sticks, too, and playing the
right,
scores.
yeah,
So that's tough.
so.
Well, guys, to wrap things up, what does the Pittsburgh Steelers need to do week number 2 against Seattle? Do they have to be more aggressive, at least with the play calling offensively, Mike?
You said it in the telecast. Just play Steeler football.
Yeah, it's as simple as
You
that.
know,
It sounds
own
simple, but it's a
Own
matter of going out there and
Be
doing it.
You're at home. You got your fans. You're still the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Right, dominate the line of scrimmage. They just got totally dominated out in New
Yeah,
England.
both sides.
Both sides. I want to see them reverse that this week.
Mike, for you?
I want to see the secondary, how they react to a mobile quarterback in Russell Wilson. I think that's going to be a big factor as well, as when the play breaks down, how do you react? When that play gets extended, how do they react to when he gets, you know, more time to throw?
And
That's
just
what
real
I'm
quick,
interested to see.
some injuries to see some key guys this week too. You know, let's see how that pans out through the week to see who's actually going to be on the field 100% on Sunday.
Oh, we'll see how it goes. It's the home opener for the Pittsburgh Steelers as they take on the NFC West opponent, Seattle Seahawks. So for Mike, and Kent, I'm Jay. Thanks for watching and enjoy the game on Sunday.
Thanks for watching. Join us again next week for Black and Gold Digital Edition.